Yo, what's going on? What's popping? What's popping? So before I go on, let me give you a little background into my life, right? Being that my parents are immigrants, I've always traveled to different parts of the world, you know, especially because I still have family that live overseas. And not only that, I used to live overseas at that. So therefore, all my life, I've been used to traveling. So this was nothing new to me. Not only that, but even with my family, the type of family I have, we've always been the type of family that always traveled. We traveled to different parts of the country, and also my family have traveled to different parts of the world. Therefore, with me in my life, traveling was never something new to me. It has been something that I've been used to ever since I guess I was born. But for the larger portion of so-called black people in America, especially black males, this idea of traveling to another country is something new. It's a new idea. And for even some, it's a new experience. So once again, traveling to other parts of the world is something new to the masses of so-called black males in America, being that unfortunately a lot of so-called black males rarely travel. So what's going on, Kevin Kelly? Kevin Kelly says traveling is very new to them. Why that's why they talk about it so much. Right. So going back to what I'm saying, what's up, Jersey Ham? Jersey Ham said, from what I see on both sides of this debate, is that both sides have too many dishonest actors. Good point. Very good point. But that's actually a good point, Jersey Hammer. But going back to what I was saying is that being that it's something new to a lot of so-called black males in America, therefore it gets highly demonized. Why? Because in when it comes to so-called black people, masses of so-called black people, the masses of so-called black people think with inside of a box. We a lot know that. And a lot of us are just so afraid to think outside of the box to the point of fact if someone brings an idea that is outside of the box of black people, you're going out their comfort zone. And once you go outside of their comfort zone, they fear that. Thus, people condemn what fear, right? So whenever you bring a new idea that or something that is new to the masses of black people, in this very beginning, it gets condemned. That's just how it is. Well, I think that human beings, that period, when you bring something that is new or that is outside of the box that people think in, it's outside of people's comfort zone. Thus, people are quick to demonize it because they're not comfortable being outside of that comfort zone. And that's the thing when it comes to the idea of traveling, and a lot of so-called black people on social media talking about it. You talk something that's outside of many black people's zone, thus they demonize it at first. This is what happens. And historically, you see that whenever someone demonizes or condemns a new idea or time, that same new idea that's being condemned becomes embraced. And you see that time after time after time again. Let me give an example. Let's say hip hop. Right now in 2022, hip music is and have been, I guess, within the past 20 to 5 years, the most popular musical genre in the whole world. Now, some of you may not be enough to know this, but I'm old enough to know when hip hop was highly demonized within the mainstream society. I mean, there were times. I remember a time, I was old enough to remember a time where if you dare play pop music at a certain elderly person's house, motherfucker, they'll curse your ass out, someone turn rap off. There was a time where even like there were venues that refused to let rappers perform in their venues. I mean, there were people that owned arenas that refused to allow rappers to perform in their arenas. I mean, there were yo. I mean, it was so condemned when hip hop was just in its infancy stage. A lot of people within the mainstream condemn it. They've always connected it to music for criminals and thugs and all that other bullshit. But over time, what happened? It became embraced, right? It got embraced. It's to a point where almost any venue would do anything to have the most popular rapper of time perform in their venues, right? you know, yeah. But that's what I'm saying. When something that's considered new, it gets condemned, but over time it becomes embraced, and that's the case with Black Americans in traveling. Because what happens is whenever you give something that's outside of so Black people's box, they may condemn it. But what funny thing that happens is that, and it's ironic that the same groups of people that condemn something then becomes curious. They become curious with this idea that is outside their box. And once they get curious, then they start opening up to it to learn more about it, this new idea. That's the case with traveling and Black men. What you see now is so Black people all over social media condemning this idea of Black males traveling. But what you see that's going to happen over time, that this idea is going to be more and more embraced by Black males, especially the Black males now who condemn the idea of Black males dating female season, what have you. It's going to be embraced to the point of the fact that Black males in America are going to normalize the idea of having a passport and having all sorts of visa stamps all around their passports showing people where they've been to. That's the future I see when it comes to Black men in America and traveling. It's only going to get bigger. That's it. You know. And no, I'm not a passport bro. I don't consider myself to be a passport bro. I don't consider myself to be SYSBM. Don't let the hashtags in the video description fool you. But um, I do support the idea of my Black brothers in America actually visiting other parts of the world, because it's a big world out here. The Most High made this earth so vast. And there's no way hell that he made this earth for us not to walk on and see and travel. To me, it's a human thing to travel. Travel is a human thing. Traveling and exploration and seeing other parts of the world is a human thing. And it's a thing, like I said in one of my prior videos, that expands a person's horizon and that give a person a certain viewpoint of the world that goes beyond of the environment that they're used to. And that's another reason, or one of the biggest reasons, why I think that it's very important for a lot of Black males in America to travel more other parts of the world, because going to other environments, going to other places, and being around different people and different cultures actually increase your way of thinking and gives you a perspective that is broader than the perspective that we're used to living in the inner city. It does something real great for the mind. It makes you wiser. It makes you more knowledgeable of the world that you live in. And plus, create a new friend. You could have a new friend. You create new contacts, new networks. So with all these idiots condemning the art of traveling, it's a bunch of foolish shit. Okay. What's up, LSP, the Redbone artist? What's up? Degenerate Sharingan, what's up? Jersey Hammer says, my perception is that you get travelers trying to rub other people's nose in the fact that they can't. And you get the non-travelers deciding to attack the traveler's manhood. Yeah, that dumbass shit happens on here. That dumbass shit happens. Single American Clan says, what you're talking about is related to cognitive dissonance. It is very common among black folk, the tendency to not be comfortable with new things. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, yes, most music genres are like that. It gets condemned in its infancy, but over time it becomes embraced. And and I view the same thing's going to happen when it comes to black males in America traveling overseas. Right now, because the idea is new to many so-called black males and black people in general, it's highly condemned. But over time, it will become embraced. So all these little, all these little, stereotypical statements that people who are on the other side of the argument make, talking about, oh, you black men go there just to get prostitutes and mess with little girls. And when they make these accusations, they have no evidence to provide to support these accusations. All these are just smoke screens to hide many different things. A, the fear of black males finding better dating options, the fear of black males understanding that there is a bigger world out there outside of this inner city community that most of them live in. And also, like I said before, it's a smokescreen to hide the fact that they're not comfortable with new ideas because it's outside their comfort zone. A lot of people think with inside of a box, especially so-called black people. So-called black people think inside of a box, and they're comfortable with thinking inside of that box. When you present an idea that is outside of that comfort box to so black people, they will condemn it at first, but later on embrace it. you know. But also on another point, and I've said this on one of my previous videos, on like two or three of my previous videos, right? Is that so when so-called black people speak about traveling online, what I want them to do is speak about things that speak about the other side of traveling. Speak about things outside females overseas because people online right now that speaking about traveling, regardless of which side of the argument that they take, whenever they speak about the idea of so-called black males in America going to another country, it always revolves around female. Whether people who are pro passports or anti passports, each of the arguments on each side revolves around females. So I'm hoping that the conversation, and actually it will, when it comes to traveling, changes into people actually looking at the deep aspects of traveling. Because it's more, of course, it's more to traveling overseas as females, of course. Yeah. But I love it when people on the other side of the argument who like to condemn black males to travel by making up these statements that revolve around um fake outrage, selective outrage. It's like I'll say selective outrage, I'll say fake outrage. They create this fake outrage and try to make it seem as if almost every single black male, or at least most of them, travel overseas for various reasons. And they act as if they're so against these supposedly nefarious things that black males do overseas, when these same nefarious things that they accuse black males of doing overseas also exist in America, and you don't see them having that same smoke, the same nefarious things that exist here in America. Like, for example, like I brought a point early in this video where the people who are against black males traveling would make this claim that the reason why black males travel is because they want to engage in prostitution and exploit young poor women overseas, yet they don't have the same smoke for the high amount of prostitution that happens here in America, especially in so-called Black America. Because in the innocence of Black America, prostitution exists in a high rate. And people, Black Americans, are and have been and still are exploited through prostitution. But the same individuals that have smoke against the black males who supposedly go overseas to trick and whatever shit don't have that same smoke for those who trick domestically. Thus, the outrage that they pretend to have concerning black males overseas is fake outrage, because it revolves around an assumption, a stereotype, which is very contradictory in itself. Because the same thing, the same issue that you claim you have a problem with exists here in America, and you barely speak against that. It's hypocritical. But all of that, like I said, is a smokescreen to cover up the fact that a lot of people fear the fact, to cover up the fact that black males, the fear that people have of black males finding better dating options overseas. Also, the idea of traveling is outside of their comfort zone, and they're just not comfortable with this new idea. Why? Because once again, like I said before, so-called black people think with inside a box, a very tiny box. And that tiny box is their comfort. And inside of that tiny box lay their comfort zone. So whenever you gave an idea that is outside of that comfort zone, they are quick to condemn that idea. But the irony is, over time, that idea that they're quick to condemn, embrace it, because that same idea that they condemn at first, they'll become curious about it and learn and try to learn more about it, and thus become captivated by it, thus putting up to it. That's always this when it comes to new ideas. Something that is considered new to a person or demographic of people always get condemned from its very beginning, but then over time, it becomes more understood and embraced even more. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, Sigma American Art Connor. Yes, you're absolutely correct. Yeah. He says, wacky, I travel more than all of the boys and girls talking excuse me, condemnation on us. And I can assure you that Caucasian males participate in the degenerate BS overseas much more than brothers do. That is absolutely correct. And Caucasian males participate in the degenerate BS overseas for decades, man. Yeah. Sigma American Arcana says it makes sense that so many of the fools who condemn us traveling are paying child support in the US. Exactly. Exactly. That's their problem, not ours. But yeah, and Sigma American Arcana, when it comes to this comment that you've made, Sigma American Arcana, not only do Caucasian males participate in degenerate BS overseas much more than so-called black males, Caucasian females do, and so-called black females do. Hell, Caucasian females are very much open to their agenda when they go overseas. Not all Caucasian females, but the ones who fit the description of what I'm about to say, they're open about it. But you don't see the outrage when it comes to them. Like when it comes to a lot of Caucasian females from the United States and Europe who travel to the Caribbean, primarily to have sex with black Caribbean males for, they paid them. Yeah, Caucasian females from the United States, Canada, and Europe travel to the Caribbean. They travel to Africa to buy sex from impoverished black males over, young males over there, right? In these countries. But you don't see anybody in the West or within these developed nations condemn these Caucasian females, talking about how they're exploiting these young males in these poor countries. You don't see that outrage. And these Caucasian females are very much open to it. They're very much open to admitting it. I'm speaking about the Caucasian females who fit the description of what I'm talking about. Because common sense will tell you not every Caucasian female that travels does that, but the ones that I'm talking about, they're very much open to bragging about that. But you don't see society condemning them. And I've stated this in older videos that even so-called black females in America, a lot of them travel to the Caribbean. A lot of them travel to the Caribbean for sex. Okay. I remember I was watching one of the Game Changers videos, right? He was Game Changer, shout outs to him. He was doing a live stream. This was, I think, about last year, 2021, where Game Changer was doing a live stream. And he played a video with his so-called black female in America went to the island of Jamaica, and she was recording herself going to these different Jamaican men, asking them if they eat pussy, talking about that she's looking for a guy in Jamaica that would go down on her and perform oral sex on her. Now, I didn't see this outrage from a lot of people, from all these different people talking about how this female is going to a quote unquote third world country and exploiting these impoverished young men out there. I don't see that outrage. But yet, when so-called black males in America or from America travel overseas, now you hear this fake outrage. You hear these stereotypical comments on these black males that travel overseas. And people are so against it. Supposedly. But what they're really against is a new idea that falls outside of a lot of people's comfort zone. Because so-called black people think within inside a very small box, unfortunately. But like I said, over time, what gets condemned ends up being embraced. So I see when it comes to the future of black males and American passports, that is only going to increase. You're going to find more and more so-called black males in America that's going to get their passport and that's going to open their minds up to travel. It's just going to spread. And I'm not talking about the passport bros. I'm not talking about the passport bros movement or some SYSBM stuff. No disrespect to those two movements, but I'm not saying that that this movement itself is going to spread. These movements. I'm not going to say that the average so-called black man in America is going to say SYSBM or they're going to say travel bros. I'm just going to say just the idea that of traveling overseas, visiting overseas, even getting employment and or business opportunities overseas, dating overseas is going to increase amongst black males in America. It and it's going to happen naturally because when you look at society, society is becoming more and more globalized. The world is becoming smaller due to technology, due to the advancement of social media. I mean, we live in a world now that we could speak to people all over the world and not pay that much. I mean, there was a time where if you want to make international calls, it's going to cost, it's going to run you some money, right? Going to run you some money on your phone bill. But now we got damn apps like WhatsApp, where all you need is a goddamn Wi-Fi connection, and you can speak to almost anybody from any part of the world. Sick of American Arcana says, honestly, when I see VW come overseas, they struggle to get much attention and interaction with men. Oh wow. Oh, okay. I see BW from America being signal as fuck overseas, while everyone else gets got somebody. Oh shit. Well, Kevin Kelly says, I remember about 10 or 12 years ago when T.I. had a show to do in Jamaica and he did a jingle for it over the radio, and he said it's his first time out of the country. I could I could see he never traveled, or I could be he never traveled. Oh, okay. Well, oh, okay. She made a video about it. All right. Yeah, yeah. And sex tourism is something that Western films have done for a very long time. And once again, there's no rage over it. So what is the outrage when it comes to so-called black males going overseas, whether it's for sex tourism or not? What's the outrage? Well, the outrage is covering up the fact that people condemn new ideas. And traveling overseas is something new in the eyes of so-called black people, but it's only going to grow. That's all it is, man. So-called black males getting their passports and traveling overseas is only going to grow. It's only going to grow. And like I just said, it's naturally going to grow because the world is getting smaller. Technology have made the world a smaller place. The world is more globalized now. Pretty soon, traveling to another country is going to be as similar as a person from one US state traveling to another US state. I mean, it's already the case in Europe where in Europe, people normally travel to other countries in Europe at like just as normally as people in America travel to different states. But it's pretty much it's going to be like that all over the world. And not only that, tra- excuse me, I'm sorry. Not only that, but traveling have become more affordable. It has become more affordable as there are websites that give people more accommodations when it comes to travel and hotel stay. I mean, you got the Airbnbs, where of course some Airbnbs can be pretty expensive, but other Airbnbs is pretty affordable. I mean, it's only going to grow. I mean, especially when it comes to the growth of remote employment, where people are just working overseas, almost not overseas, where people are working remotely just behind the computer and getting paid, and they could be anywhere in the world working. Like they call it digital nomads. That's what they call it. People that work remotely, but at the same time travel while they're working remotely. They're called digital nomads. I mean, that remote employment is only going to increase. And when that increase, travel going to increase. Why? Because people are now going to have the time to travel. Because of course, common sense. Working remotely, you don't have to be in the same place over and over again. You just have to be behind a computer. And as long as you have some sort of internet access, you can work. So this thing is only going to spread, and it's going to spread naturally because the world has become more globalized. Thus, so-called black males are going to eventually catch on. So-called black people, we, as a collective, a lot of us usually are the last people to catch on to something. But when we catch on, if you know what I mean. The Jared Shannon says, I remember there was a female biracial YouTuber. I think she was black and Mexican. She was a college student in Japan. Her name used to go by Hoeing in Japan. Hoeing. He said Hoeing. He said Hoeing in Japan. Yeah. What up? What up? What up? Your friendly neighborhood OG. He says traveling ain't going to save black men. I never said it was. I never said it was going to save black men. I never said anything about black men being saved. Black men being saved, that's a whole nother story, you know. But I am saying is that the art of traveling is going to increase amongst the black male populace in America overseas. Well, in America over time, I mean. Yeah, that bragging shit is stupid. Yeah, it's dumb to brag about traveling. I mean, it's one thing to speak on traveling. It's another thing, it's one thing. It's one thing to educate people on traveling, but it's stupid to go on YouTube and brag about it. What is this to brag about? Okay, you travel. Wow, you done something that millions of other people do. You know, you can enlighten people on traveling. You can educate people on traveling, but to brag about it as if you're better than someone else, to me, I think that's stupid. And I think that's immature. I think people have to grow up from that. Yeah, if that's the case. Yeah, man. All of black males in traveling is only going to grow. That's it. It's going to grow. And black males in America opening up their dating options and choosing and dating females from other countries and other cultures, that's going to grow. That's it. That's going to grow. And if you, once again, and I'll point out different examples of how when you look at what the world is becoming, it's only natural for the art of traveling to multiply tenfold because the world is becoming more and more globalized, you know? And once again, I'm not speaking from a perspective of being a passport bro because I don't consider myself to be a pass bro. I don't consider myself to be SYSBM. I don't consider myself to be these groups. Once again, do not let the hashtag in the video description box fool you. the, the hashtag in the video description box is only for the algorithm, okay? But I just look at it as something natural. Traveling is natural. The Most High created this earth for us to walk on and travel as much as we can. And human beings have traveled ever since the dawn of man. Ever since man existed, traveling exists. So it's a human thing. I don't put a movement on something that's supposed to be normal to humans. Humans travel. It's a human thing. Hell, animals travel. Birds travel. Well, birds are animals, you know. You shoot. Hell, even clouds travel. Clouds travel. You know, different natural disasters travel. Hurricanes travel. Tornadoes travel. Rain clouds travel. Man, DR was always the projects. DR was always the hood. It was the hood before Black American males came in. You said you hope not. You hope not. What you hope I wasn't saying that traveling's going to save black males. I've never. If that was what you meant, well, the thing is, nor I've never said, nor even insinuated that the art of travel is going to save black males, but it's going to do a lot. Traveling can make a lot of positive changes in the minds of so-called black males. It can do a lot of positive things in the minds of so-called black males. All right. So ain't no way I said it's going to save black males. I think as far as saving, that's for each individual black males to do themselves. Each individual so-called black males in America, they have to do that themselves and save their own asses. But that's all I have to say concerning this. That's all I have to say. So you guys have a great night or a great day, depending on which part of the world that you're watching me from. All right, peace.